First, so I guess, hold on, let me turn on my recording. All right. Okay, all right. So, hi guys, we are here for this month's Triple Threat Life Expert webinar, and we have Andrew Horsfall-Turner, who is a father, husband, pro triathlete, swim coach, all of the above. And so today's topic, we're going to be talking about how to turn the triathlon swim from a liability into a secret weapon. And so Andrew, first, can you tell us a little bit about your background as a swimmer? I know you, from what I understand, were a swim coach before you got into doing pro triathlon. Is that correct? How did that?
Yeah, so I was a swimmer from pretty much how you, I guess, how they do it over in America as well, which is I did my swimming lessons, and then kind of as I progressed through swimming lessons, as you got to kind of like the top-ish kind of level, they basically invite you to join swimming club. So I was invited to join swimming club maybe like age 6 or 7. And then, yeah, that took me on a bit of a journey for the next, best part of 20 years till I was about 23. I just swimming. Yeah. So swam to like a national level in the pool, went and swam kind of the British version of kind of like NCAA's kind of collegiate sport. We have like Bucks over here in the UK. And yeah, really enjoyed my time swimming. While I was a swimmer, I specialized in basically all the hard events. I'm not naturally very quick, so I was like a 200 butterfly, 400 IM, 1500 freestyle kind of swimmer. And
just picked all the hard ones.
Yeah, literally. But that led me to be a distance swimmer, and therefore I did a bit of open water swimming when I was a swimmer. And that's actually what I had most success on. And I actually was able to do some like kind of invite international like events, nothing like world championships or anything like that. But I kind of had a bit of exposure to kind of, I guess, high level sport. And then when I got to 23, I'd finished university and I'd done a sports science degree, and I kind of didn't know what I wanted to do with my life.
Yeah.
So logically, I just thought, well, I've spent so many years swimming now, so why not get into the coaching side of things? And luckily, as I was finishing university, one of the swimming coaches basically highlighted to me that I should kind of give it a go, and they kind of invited me back the following year to kind of help support an age group team that was like alongside where I was training at university. So I then, for my first year in swim coaching, which was 2016 maybe, 2016, I assisted this coach, and she kind of took me under her wing. So that's, I guess a very quick kind of starting swimming to kind of how I ended up coaching in swimming.
And so where do you live currently?
So I'm based in Swansea in South Wales, which is where I came to university. I'm originally from England, so just south of London, a place called Sussex. But yeah, I've now been in South Wales since 2012, so almost half my life now.
And so how did that translate into when did Ironman or a triathlon at all like come into the picture? Because you didn't grow up doing triathlon, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I kind of it's a bit of a weird one because I grew up as a swimmer. I was very sheltered to kind of the whole world of Ironman. I didn't really know much about it, and I probably had a bit of a bit like how some sports are a bit I can't remember what the term I'm looking for. You almost think your sport's better than everyone else's sport.
Yeah.
And I very much, because you had some people who swam but also did triathlon kind of in and around the sport, and the consensus was always like, oh, they're triathletes, they're just like not very good swimmers.
Yeah.
Which is always like a swimmer's mentality, which is like, oh, swimming's the be all end all sort of thing. So unfortunately I was one of them until much later in my life, and I kind of discovered the sport, and I discovered it in two ways. The first way is I went down to Tenby, which is the home of Ironman Wales, and they run an event there called Long Course Weekend, which is an Ironman distance swim on the Friday night, an Ironman bike leg on the Saturday and then a marathon on the Sunday.
Oh, okay.
And as a swimmer, they put prize money on each discipline as well. So as
That's a cool
swimmers,
idea. We should totally have that in the US. We don't have that. That would be
it's
awesome.
a really good concept. And as swimmers, we're only about an hour from Tenby. So each year, a few of the swimmers from the university, we would go down there, and obviously we'd try and win it to win the prize money. So that was my first. And again, I kind of went there a few years on the trot, and it was a really cool race because it's literally swimming on the Ironman swim course. But I still didn't quite understand the kind of the like scale and size of what Ironman was. And then it was 2017. So I was coaching swimming. I'd finished swimming myself. I was just keeping fit. And my dad did a race in the UK called Outlaw Triathlon.
Yep, I've heard of
Which
that one.
is, full distance triathlon. And I went to watch him, and he took, I want to say it was like 13 and a half hours. And I just remember being like, thinking my dad's absolutely crazy. Just like, what's wrong with it? Like, my dad was, I think it was his
That's
50th
great.
birthday. So
That's awesome.
yeah, and it's crazy because then it was just over 2 years later that I did Ironman Wales as an age grouper. Was my first Ironman. But yeah, obviously in 2017 I thought it was absolutely nuts, and then 2 years later I was doing one. So it definitely sowed a seed.
Yeah, it's so, and if we, I mean, we could jump ahead because I know, didn't you did something pretty special at Outlaw, didn't you? What year was that?
So that was 2021.
Uh-huh.
So I raced Ironman Wales in 2019, and I qualified for Kona as an age grouper.
Mhm.
And then being kind of like an elite-ish kind of swimmer, I definitely had this kind of itch that I wanted to maybe race professional. If I got good enough, was kind of like the goal. But I kind of had this feeling that I could be good enough because I was always good at the longer races, and
Yeah.
so I trained really hard through COVID. Pools were shut, but obviously swimming was my strength, so that's not an issue. But then I raced Outlaw in 2021, and that in the UK is a gateway race. So it's a bit like, I think you guys have like collegiate nationals.
Yeah.
So if you win Outlaw, there's a couple of Outlaw races, and if you win one of them, you basically get your pro card for the next year.
Oh, okay.
So I went there with that target, and I was lucky enough to break the course record there, which again had some prize money. And I was an amateur at the time, but because I broke the course record, I got prize money for breaking the course record, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was my first taste of kind of like a paycheck of being a triathlete.
You're like, oh wow, I can make kind of a living doing it, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely sowed in like a bit of a seed. And then so that was, I guess, my breakthrough in the sense that it kind of gave me that pro card for the following year, but also maybe the confidence to kind of pursue the sport a little bit more as well.
Yeah, definitely. And so obviously like now, you do more on the Ironman circuit with, you do some 70.3s, and then I didn't meet you, but I took pictures of you. I was there spectating my husband in
Yes.
Marbella. And so I was out there when the pros were coming through. And so I was taking pictures of all the pros. And then I went afterwards and I was like, oh, because we'll see numbers. And he's like, oh, maybe some of the pros would like these because I had talked to other pros and they're like, if we're not in the top
If
like
you're not in the
five,
top
we
five,
don't
you
get
don't get any
pictures.
photos. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, that's really sad. So he was like, you should
Yeah.
send some to, and I was like, yeah, because I was just taking them for fun. So
Oh
it was
no,
kind of
yeah.
funny. So guys, that's how Andrew and I kind of met. And so, okay, so I wanted to ask you, because you have experience as a pro triathlete and as a swim coach, why do you think so many age groupers struggle with the triathlon swim? Because I think that's the biggest barrier to entry, not
Yeah.
just for Ironman, obviously, but for like any triathlon. I get people who say all the time, I would do a triathlon if I didn't have to swim. So what do you think is the reason why so many age groupers struggle with that discipline?
And unfortunately, I think a lot of it stems from just like potentially like poor like swimming education growing up.
Yeah.
I think, I do I still do some coaching now, and I work for a company called My Swimco here in Swansea. and we basically take a lot of adult onset swimmers who, a lot of them come to us and, they don't have the ability to swim a length of front crawl. And then they turn up, they haven't got the ability to swim a length of front crawl, and they say, oh, by the way, I've entered an Ironman in 5 months' time.
Yep.
So the challenge is there in front of us. Honestly, I think it does stem back to the fact that, like, I was very fortunate that I grew up swimming through childhood, and then as I say through childhood, but really early childhood, but as I got to like 6, 7, I kind of was put into a swimming club. And I guess anyone who's now in triathlon as a taking part themselves as a fan or whatever, if they've got kids, I know, there's no guarantee in 20, 30, 40 years time they might be a triathlete.
Yeah.
But the best gift you can give a kid is the ability to swim.
Yeah.
So from a kind of a long-term standpoint, I would basically implore anyone to go out and make sure their kids have the basic badges in terms of being able to swim like lengths of front crawl and just water safety as well. Because if you get oh, sorry, I lost my voice there. If you get a grown up now who's say 30, 40, 50, who has even gone through learn to swim 30 years ago, but to a good level of learn to swim, so their ability to swim like a full length of front crawl, etc., their progression through swimming and developing to be able to do a triathlon is so much quicker and so much greater because the fundamentals are set. So I would say the biggest reason for the struggle is basically probably that lack of education early on. I guess if you haven't got the ability to go back in time, which a lot of people haven't got, it's kind of like the question, I guess, then leads to like, well, how do you overcome that?
Yeah, what do you do now? Like because I started doing triathlon, let's see, 35 maybe. And so, I grew up in Florida my whole life. I knew how to swim. Like, I can be in the water. We did tubing and jet skiing and everything. I did not know how to, I could get from one end of the pool to the other. I didn't know how to do a proper freestyle. Like, I could barely at the beginning get from 25 yards across the pool and without like not being able to breathe. And so this is now the start of my 7th or 8th year in triathlon. And so, we've done at this point, my husband and I, like, I think like 10 halves and like 2 fulls. And so we're, fairly confident at swimming now, but it's taken a long time comparatively to like other disciplines. So I think the thing like I wanted to kind of pick your brain about is there's so much content out there, especially like people search how to get better at swimming. And there's like so many people on social media who are experts, and they're like, these tips about swim stroke and how you need to kick and all these things. And I think it can be so confusing for age groupers, and I'm not certain it needs to be that complicated. Like, I wanted to see if you could help us maybe, and it's hard because obviously we're not in the pool with you, but how can we make swimming a little simpler and like less complex to where we're learning a 2-beak, 4-beak, 6-beak kick? And I mean, it's just so many things,
I would strip it back even further than that, because I think a lot of what you said there in terms of ability to swim distance, I kind of almost think that's the easy part once you become very confident in your kind of your surroundings. So with a lot of kind of new swimmers, the biggest issues I always see is like confidence in being able to float, confidence in being safe in the water. As you mentioned there as well, breathing, feeling like completely out of breath after a 25. So I would always strip everything way back to getting someone very, very comfortable floating in the water, floating on your front, floating on your back, rotating from your front to your back, things like that, and having them sort of super comfortable with having their face fully submerged. Because I think that's a big thing, because you get a lot of athletes who you can sort of say semi-swim with like head up breaststroke, but the confidence to put their head in the water, and then obviously in open water especially, it becomes even more difficult. But the more confident you are in like your ability to just basically float, I think goes a long way. So one of my favorite drills for new swimmers to do is side kicking. And it can be done with fins, it can be done without fins, whatever the kind of the level of that swimmer is. But I think the being able to lie on your side with one arm out in front, and I'm
Mhm.
going to kind of demonstrate because that's what swim
Yeah,
coaches do.
yeah,
But yeah, you got one arm out in front, and then your ability just to kind of like be confident, just to turn your head, take a
yeah,
breath, and put your head back down. If you can get people super confident doing that, then the swimming part of it is actually very simple, because if they're confident putting an arm out, extending it, lying on their side, and taking a long breath, but then they can take a couple of strokes and do that again. And it doesn't matter if there's a pause in the stroke and it doesn't look pretty and it doesn't look necessarily like really efficient. As long as they're not getting out of breath and they're able to repeat the motion again and again and
yeah.
again over a duration of months, years, etc., they
Mhm.
will become much more proficient, even if they didn't have any further swimming coaching after that.
Yeah.
But I think
No, I think
sometimes the
that,
basics are, yeah,
yeah. And I think a lot of times the basics get skipped because, like you said, what I find now is like, in talking to people, we promote the blog on like, Instagram and TikTok and all those things. And there is this whole generation, and you would be very shocked. And it's like, I signed up for an Ironman. So now I need to learn how to swim, and I need to learn how to ride a bike, and I need to learn how to run. And I'm like, wait a second. Why? Why are we doing that? First of all, that's a whole nother topic. Um, but the thing, yeah, at that point, it's like survival. They have to learn how to swim 2.4 miles. So they're not taking time to learn those basic skills. But I feel like what you're talking about, I do that, to the
without even thinking,
side
yeah,
side kicking. And it's like you also learn, I think, which is I think a big mistake I see newer swimmers make. And I'm not a swim coach, but you can kind of like you watch people is they always want to lift their head up to breathe.
yeah.
And I feel like that kicking on the side and like what you're saying is just like turning your head till one goggles out of the water and learning
Yeah,
how to
so
breathe. It helps you learn how to like breathe the right way.
and that's one of my favorite quotes, and people probably get very annoyed at me saying it, is that to become a better swimmer, you don't need more drills. You just need to do the
Hmm.
same drill but with a different focus.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter what level you are. You could be, first time ever in a pool, or you could be an Olympic champion in
Hmm.
swimming, but side kick is always going to be a really good drill for you.
Yeah.
And there's literally thousands of little focus points, and you highlighted one really really good there, which is like, keeping one goggle in when you turn your head. But the other one could just be like, as you're turning your head, thinking about engaging your core slightly so your body's nice and stable.
Hmm.
Or you could think about positioning of your hands. Are your fingertips pointing forwards? Are they pointing up? Are they pointing down? And also like, yeah, I guess from my standpoint, it's not the thing I always find with that online kind of influencer style posting of like, this is how you get better at swimming,
Yeah.
is that they highly overcomplicate like things that should be really simple. And they
Hmm.
they give they give they give out advice of drills that maybe they've been given by a coach or something, but they might be flashy, but actually they may have a purpose, but I
Hmm.
I would rather do the simple drills and do them a
Yeah.
million times and do them really, really well than doing a fancy drill that, 99.9% of people probably can't do. And if
Yeah.
they're not doing it correctly,
Yep.
why are they bothering doing it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, our coaches, like we've got, like at the beginning, she's like, okay, this focus for today. The entire workout is working on body position. The entire workout for today is we're working on your cache. The workout for
Yeah,
today, we are working on breath control. So the drills have a purpose, and
yeah,
then we have main set. Sometimes we have drills in there for that purpose. So yeah, like not just doing in the past, I would have 400, 500 warm up and do like 5 or 6 of my favorite drills. And I'm like, okay, I did drills. But it wasn't for, like doing them for a specific purpose, I think is important.
yeah. And your sessions, are they coached like with a coach on deck as well?
No, no.
Okay.
Our coach is in South Carolina. So yeah, we'll
Fair,
send her
fair.
about like every month or two videos of us swimming
Yeah,
so she can see. And then we go up and do triathlon camp with her so she can see us. Because yeah, I think that's another thing is like we are blessed to we have a coach who, is she's planning all of our workouts and everything for us. And there's a lot of people out there that I'm like, they just want to sign up. They want like an online training plan. And then if they're not getting any type of like visual feedback, it's hard. A lot of times you
Yeah,
think you're doing something and
you're
you're
really
not
not.
doing
Yeah,
anything
yeah, yeah.
at all. Yeah.
No, because I think that's another super valuable one. And obviously, like what I do now is I used to obviously coach more like swimming squad environment, but now
Hmm.
now I race professionally. I do triathlon coaching too. So what I tend to do now with the swimming coaching specifically, it is kind of one-to-one basis in person,
Yeah.
because I feel like the impact you make in person with someone, like connecting, being able to kind of like, as you said there, like ask them to do something and be able to like pick them up if they're not doing it how you want them to do, and be able to repeat the process, like, is
Yeah.
really, really efficient. So I guess like from a going back to, I don't know, the question that was maybe like 5-10 minutes ago now, like how would you overcome people who are struggling to get into some triathlon because of the swim? I would basically look at utilizing local, if possible, in-person coaching, if it's
Mm.
one-to-one basis, if it's a master's group.
Yeah.
um, there's so many great, and it's not to say that the first one you go to will be the one that is perfect and whatever, but having the ability to kind of put yourself out there, explore. I have no offense if someone tries to come to me for coaching and they don't feel like we're clicking as a coach athlete relationship.
Hmm.
There's no hard feelings if they want to
Yeah.
try a different coach. So
Yeah, definitely.
I think utilizing whatever is local to you, and if you haven't got anything local to you, then as you mentioned with your coach, someone who was able to maybe see what, like, send them video and they can analyze that
Yeah.
video and kind of support you that way as well.
Yeah, definitely. Um, Something I wanted to ask you about is I see this a lot with people who are new to the sport and they come in and their main goal is as a half Ironman or an Ironman. So they're facing a 1.2 mile swim or a 2.4 mile swim, which is very daunting when you
Mm.
are coming to the sport as a brand new swimmer, which is what these people are doing. So I think a big misconception that I see is people are like, I need to learn how to cover the distance. Oh, are you good?
No, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, all good. All
Okay.
good. Yeah.
So they need to like I need to cover the distance, right? So then you see them get in and they're swimming like 1,000 yards straight, or they're and these are very new swimmers, so chances are your form's not super great at that point, and so they're just getting. I always say I'm like I feel like they're just getting really good at swimming poorly, and you're just exhausting yourself, and so I
Ingraining
always
bad habits.
like,
Yeah,
can you
yeah.
explain like to people the benefit of using like shorter sets. Like there's
Yeah.
benefits using 25s and 50s and hundreds. You don't always have to build endurance by doing a super long swim.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think the biggest issue with swimming is the ability to maintain kind of, I say correct stroke, but like say you're improving your technique as a focus on, like, if you're working with a coach or whatever, if you're trying to actively become a better, more efficient swimmer, then going to the pool and swimming kind of like 1,000 meters at a time or 1,500 meters at a time, unless you're like a very good level swimmer already and able to maintain your stroke efficiency, your stroke rate, the intensity you want to swim at, etc. There's very little to do it. I know that people like it for maybe a confidence thing,
Yeah.
and that's not something that I'm against necessarily. And if someone is doing, say, their first 70.3, before that race, you might either do the distance or you might do a broken distance or even an
Yeah.
open water some of the distance, say. Um, but if they're trying to build up to that level, utilizing, for me, 100-meter reps are kind of like golden,
Mm-hmm.
because I think they're the perfect distance of, if you're a really quick swimmer, if you're talking yards, if you're a really quick swimmer, you're swimming, say, 60-second yard, like 100 yards, you
Mm-hmm.
know, you're kind of, I guess, mid pack age groupers are somewhere around, like, say, 140 to 2 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
100 yards. And then,
Yeah.
obviously, even if you're a newer swimmer, it's only going to be within sort of 2 to 3 minutes of swimming per
Yeah.
rep. So it still condenses the length you're swimming at a time,
Mm-hmm.
which still enables you to, especially in a short course pool, you're hopefully, like how many strokes you should take a length. And then you only have to count it 4 times before you get a little rest. Because
Yeah.
for me, that's a really important thing for new swimmers is understanding how many strokes you take a length, because
Okay.
firstly, consistency wise, if you're going 18 strokes one length and then 24 strokes the next length and then 20 strokes the next length, there's something inconsistent about the stroke there. And also it's really good for those that are trying to improve their efficiency of swimming to like, right, you know, you get a swimmer in and they're doing say 25 strokes in a length. If you can make a couple of skill adjustments and then they're all of a sudden swimming 20 strokes a length, then they've saved, you know, the way I always put it, you've saved yourself 5 strokes over 25 yards or 25 meters, say. Add that up over a 70.3 distance or an Ironman distance. How many strokes have you saved?
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous, the number. So I think utilizing that, and then once you become fitter, you can continue to do short reps, 50s, 100s, 200s, but just reduce the amount of rest you have. So you might start off by taking, you know, 60 seconds rest after 100 meters. And then that over time, you might get to the point where you only actually need 5 seconds. And 5 seconds is enough for you to mentally reset yourself. I'm starting another rep. I'm going to do 20 strokes a length this 100. Off I go, kind of thing. And that's the way I would much rather structure it. I'd much rather see someone do 10 by 100 rather than do 1,000 meters straight and it be rubbish.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of, we had talked about drills a little bit. I was wondering, did you have any other drills that you think are really good, that you like
So
besides
many,
the
so
scientific
many,
ones?
yeah. But unfortunately, again, it goes back to being super basic. But my favorite drill is, it's called different things. So in like the British triathlon coaching system, I think it's called torpedo drill.
Okay.
But I call it kind of a head-led rotational drill. And all it is basically you put your arms by your side, you lie flat in the water, and then you push off and you kick on your tummy, and you're focusing on trying to be really like, so I think of 2 things. It's posture, in terms of having like really good posture through the body. It's alignment, because you're thinking about having a straight line from the middle of your head all the way down to your toes. And then it's also the balance of trying to stay as flat as you can in the water. And all you do is you kick on your front. So that's the first step of that drill. And then the second step of that drill is then adding rotation. So you keep your head nice and still, looking at the floor, and then you rotate your hips and your shoulders 90 degrees back onto your
Oh,
tummy,
okay.
90 degrees. So I don't know if you've ever seen that drill before.
I think I've seen it. Are you using fins?
Yes, you could. So that's where there's lots of ways of doing it. You can use fins, you can use a snorkel.
Yeah.
Those that really struggle with the buoyancy element, you can utilize a pull buoy in various places, like between the legs, between the knees.
And you're not
That's
doing anything with your arms. They're just by your
arms.
side.
Arms are completely isolated, so all you're focusing on is being able to balance your body without
Okay.
using your arms.
I've not tried that. We'll have to try it.
Okay, yeah, no, give it a
'Cause
go.
that sounds fun.
I can send you a good video of it
Yeah.
being done, because I think this is the positive side and the downside of using social medias like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube is there is so much out there, and the problem is that some of it is useless, but there is some really, really good stuff out there. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's just about understanding what is good and what is not.
You have to sift through it. And at that point,
Yeah.
when someone's trying to, they're new, they have no clue. I mean,
Mm.
so yeah, definitely. So when we're talking about, like you said, 100 meters are kind of like your gold standard. Like when you're getting ready for a race, I don't know if it's different. I would assume it's a little different when you're getting ready for a 70.3 versus an Ironman. But like, what is one of your favorite swim sets? Like, what do you like? When we're
Oh,
talking about like distance or duration, what you do in them? Like, what's your favorite like swim set to do?
so again, I don't think it's nothing too exciting. I think my favorite set would be basically blocks. So I go basically a 400 meter, a 300 meter, a 200 meter, and a 100 meter.
Yeah.
So it's 1,000 meters. I would probably do that 3 times through. So 400, 300, 200, 100. And what I would try and do is reduce the interval each round. So the
Okay.
first round would be kind of very much like a conversational, like steady, easy. The next round will feel a bit more like a tempo effort, and then the last round is kind of what I always feel is like a bit thresholdy, which is like, especially for like a 70.3, kind of like almost race intensity, especially at a pro level.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that based on kind of previous times of doing the session, that if I'm doing that final round in meters off like a 115 base, that I'm swimming pretty well, because obviously you've got to swim the 400-meter quicker than a 5 minutes, and then whatever you've got left over is my rest.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's a 115 base the whole way through. So it's 5 minutes. Was
Okay.
it 3:45, 2:30, and 1:15?
Mm-hmm.
So the quicker you swim, the more rest you get, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. Sometimes, so sometimes in our workouts we'll have like we have a specific rest interval. It'll say 15 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever, 5 seconds, and then other times it'll say swim on
Yes.
130,
Yeah.
swim
So it's
on,
on. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And
So kind of similar.
I think that's probably one of those things that I would say more people, when people are getting into swimming and they're like newer to triathlon, I think it's much more sensible to do off, because you always want to make sure they have a certain amount of recovery.
Yeah.
But obviously, the more experience you get, also the more understanding of like over time you'll understand. Right, I normally swim X for 100.
Mhm.
Then you can start utilizing the kind of on aspect of it.
Yeah. Like your own effort level too. I
Mm.
find that that's something that has been a big transformation in my own swimming over the past like 2 years has been we work a lot on different and we do a lot of drill work, but we also work on a lot of like different intensities. So it's not like I need you to swim like this pace, because that's not super helpful in swimming. It's like I need you to swim at, like percentages. So we're talking like we're swimming at like 70%, we've got like 80, we've got 85, we've got 90, 95. So
Yeah.
being able to swim, I've got like if you tell me go out and swim like my Ironman effort, I know what that is, or swim like my Olympic effort.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
think I think a lot of swimmers also will get stuck into that. They just swim one speed all the
Yeah.
time,
I
kind of
think
thing.
I think it is difficult as well, because if it's a sport that you're not very not very aware with, but obviously a sport that you're new to, sorry, your your range from like easy to hard will kind of be the
Yeah,
same thing, because if you're already finding it like completely out of breath after a length or two, then there's no real difference between going hard and
yep,
going easy, because it's all hard kind of thing.
yep,
Um,
yeah,
and I think over time, and as you've got 7 years of experience now, is I think almost each year you've probably spent in the sport, you've probably got a better ability to kind of tier those levels. And
hmm,
it might have been that to start off with it was all hard, and then you
yeah,
had easy and hard, and then you had easy, medium, hard,
yep,
and then over time you then got, as you said, those specific
yeah.
intensity paces kind of thing.
And it takes time. I think swimming more
Yeah.
than any of the other ones just takes, I mean, a lot of time. And that's what I mean, that kind of carries over into like another question I was going to ask you, and this is going to be different for age groupers than it is for pros, and also different depending on if you're training for a sprint triathlon or a Ironman. But I think like historically, we always used to swim 2 days a week, which pretty
Mm.
typical for most triathletes because you're trying to fit in swimming, cycling,
Swim, bike,
running,
run. Yeah, yeah.
strength, work, everything. Now we swim 3 days a week, and so like when you calculate out like, and we're swimming more each time. So now when we calculate it out, I think my husband's swimming like 125% more than he has in previous years, which is
Okay. Wow.
mind-boggling
Yeah.
just by adding like the
A little
extra
bit. Yeah,
third
yeah.
swim and then also the volume of each swim. So like I was gonna ask you, like as a professional like triathlete, like how many days a week do you swim and kind of what is your like volume or intention look like? I know some people are like today's like my aerobic day, today I do more intensity. Like how do you structure your week?
Yeah. So it has varied over the last few years. I'm coached currently by a guy called Sam Proctor. So I've kind of, from a standpoint of my training, I've kind of handed the keys over to him. But the way he likes the weeks to add, sort of run for me is very much a spread of intensities. So a bit like you said about having, multiple different gears, I'll very much have like an easier swim, a longer duration swim where it might be sort of like never really much more than sort of like 5.5 kilometers is like my longest kind of swims I'll do. And then I'll have like a VO2 max kind of swim, and then a much more like threshold focus swim, which is more, my threshold swim is always what I kind of think is like 70.3 intensity kind of swim. So most weeks I'm swimming 4 times, sometimes it's 5. But it has changed over the years. When I firstly made the transfer from being a swimmer into a triathlete, I was swimming 6 times a week still, because it's what I knew, and also every other week I'd get a run niggle or injury, so I wasn't able to do as much in the other sports. So as I've become a more rounded athlete over time, it's reduced. And as going back to what you said in terms of your and your husband's increase in training, I'm a big proponent of like, obviously the accessibility to pools, and I know that there's a time demand for getting to the pool, getting changed, getting in the water, getting home, but I'm always a big fan of those that are able to swim more regularly instead of longer. So if you can swim 3 times a week and do 2,000 meters a session, then you're doing 6 kilometers a week. I'd much rather them do those 3 sessions than do 2 sessions and it'd be 3 kilometers. So I'd much rather frequency over duration, basically.
No, that makes sense. And then I tell people, I'm like, even if like you can only get that third swim is like 20 minutes, I'm like, it's still 20 minutes. Like,
even if it's like 500 to 1,000 meters is perfect.
So, and I know probably like being a swimmer, the answer I'm gonna get for this, but I'm gonna ask it anyways because it's like I think age groupers completely underestimate the swim, because especially in the long distance, they're like the bike and the run is longer, which is true as proportionally of the race it is. But I think where the mistake comes in is they're like, that means the swim is not as important. So if I want to get faster, because everyone wants to get faster, then they want to focus on putting in more volume on the bike. They want to go do like track sessions running. And these people are already good cyclists and runners. And what my coaches taught us is that it's like, I need to get you out of the water fresher so that you can do what you can do on the bike and the run. And so if you're exhausting yourself completely swimming, you can't do that. So like, what's your opinion on, because maybe in pro triathlon it's a little bit different because of the dynamics you guys have with races, but what do you think about like age groupers especially?
I don't know where I've heard this statement before, but it's one I use time and time again, and it's one that I use for Ironman Wales specifically, because it's in a bay, it's sea based, it's quite a difficult swim, it can be quite choppy.
I've heard that one's hard.
I always look at the swim, especially from an age group perspective, as the swim is literally the what's the term? It's not basically, you can't lose. Obviously you can't win in the swim, but you can lose in the swim. And the swim is literally the transportation to the rest of your race. So each year in Wales, I think last year we had 250 people who didn't finish the swim, got pulled out.
Wow.
They did 1 lap and couldn't do the second lap. So if you have invested in this journey in terms of triathlon and you want to see success, especially first timers, the swim is crucial, because you can be as fit as you want on the bike and the run. If you don't get through the swim, you ain't going to be able to show that fitness.
Totally.
So that's kind of the way I look at it. Those that are more experienced, and they're looking at trying to potentially qualify for world championships in their age group or get podiums in their age groups, the way I always look at it is like, yes, there's an element of being fresher out the water so you can express your fitness on the bike and run. But I also think there's a massive positive to coming out the water, even just 60 seconds ahead. So again, because it's so local to me, I'll use Ironman Wales as a good example. You have, again, and these are very good age group swimmers. We kind of have like a hotbed of people who come out of the water somewhere around 115 to 130. So in that space, we basically have almost half the field come out of the water, and it's kind of like a mass start at Ironman Wales where you run in.
Uh-huh.
So everyone's relatively closely packed. So even if you're able to almost get on the good side of that 115 and swim 112, 113,
Yeah.
you are getting out ahead
You
of
get out, yeah, you
a
get out.
thousand, a thousand odd people behind you.
Mhm.
Whereas if you don't invest that time and energy, you end up coming out the water within that big bubble of say 1,000+ people, and it just means that the first hour on the bike is horrible. Like you
Mhm.
don't have the ability to have your own space. You're trying to leave 12-meter gaps. You're constantly overtaking people or being overtaken.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how fit you are or what watts you wanted to ride or anything like that. It goes completely out the window because you've put yourself in a position where you're not able to do what you need to do.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I think there's a big part of just, it might seem like a big investment for a small return in terms of being 30 seconds, 60 seconds quicker.
Yeah.
But I always just think of you're 60 seconds further up the road than you would have been. So therefore you've got 60 seconds less of people to kind of fight
Yeah,
with and
definitely.
all that sort of thing.
So it like, and we didn't talk about this before, but I'm just curious, like with you, your background, obviously, when you're going in, I mean, all pro triathletes are fast. So they're all going to be very good at swimming and cycling and running, but we know that swimming is one of your strong suits.
Yes,
So
yeah.
that is where you can kind of set yourself apart. So when you go to these races, is that what kind of mindset do you go in? Or you're like, I need to do the swim and push it as far as I can within reason so that I get out earlier and have more space for the bike and the run? Or are you like, how does your race plan go, being that that is one of your strong suits?
Yeah, it's developed over time as well because when I started racing professionally, it was very much a, a conscious effort to try and be off the front. So there's a few races where I kind of was successful. You kind of get away, you get a bit of a gap. But what I've tended to find is the level of the level of pro triathlon at the moment is getting so much more competitive, and there is some really good swimmers. And obviously very exceptional bike and runners as well. That last season in 2025, I actually took more of a backseat approach. So I went into the races with more of a mindset of just being in the front group, and not necessarily being someone who pushed the pace, because of the mindset of I was doing a lot of pro series races, and there's a massive benefit to being in the front group in terms of pack
Hmm.
dynamic,
Yeah.
drafting or legal drafting,
Yeah.
and kind of being where I wanted to be. Whereas the effort that would have been needed to get 30 seconds, 60 seconds up the road on my own would
Yeah.
have just meant that the pack would have caught me up, 5 minutes
Yeah.
into the ride, sort of thing. So um,
No, that
that's
makes
been
sense.
that's been my kind of mindset in past years, and I'm unsure about how I'm going to approach it this year. But I'm definitely going to be doing some different races, and I do really enjoy getting off the front in races. I like getting out of the water and the transition being completely empty, and me being like the first person to grab their bike. It is a bit of a thrill.
That's fun.
So
No, I see. For me, I would not be a good pro triathlete if I was fast enough to be one, because I remember like in a local race, I was like, I was on the like at the front, and I'm like, it freaks me out the whole time. I'm like, I don't know where anyone is. I prefer to chase
am I
than
going the
to.
right way?
Yeah, I'm like, no, no, I don't like this. Okay, so last question for you, because I know it is late there. But speaking of your upcoming season, I want to know, do you have anything planned? And if so, like, what goals do you have for this year or beyond?
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, the tentative race schedule at the moment for me is Ironman South Africa in April.
Okay.
Um, I'm hopeful. So I guess the main goals for the season, I have two main goals. My first main goal is to try and see if I can qualify for Kona as a pro. I qualified as an age grouper, and I never had the opportunity to go because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I would love the opportunity to race there. And then my second goal is that there's a pro race this year in Ironman Wales, which is my like home
Mhm.
Ironman. And I've got, one eye on trying to, I say to people that, the big goal is to try and win the race. But at the very, very least, I would love to be on the podium there. I think that would be,
Mhm.
especially not necessarily like the pinnacle of my career, but I think it would be, one of those things I'd look back on very
Yeah.
fondly. And then in terms of other races, I'm thinking I'm going to race Ironman Frankfurt in the middle of the year. And then I think, well, if it depends. If I qualify for Kona, I'll definitely be in Kona. Um, if not, potentially might come and race Ironman Florida. But we'll,
Oh,
to be determined.
so I live in Florida. My husband and I live in Florida.
Oh, awesome. Whereabouts in Florida?
So Tallahassee. So we are
Okay.
about 2.5 hours away from Panama City.
Oh,
So
amazing.
you'll have to. I mean, I hope you're just gonna be in Kona and that'll be fine. But
If I
if you
don't.
end up coming to Florida, let us know because we so that was my first full
Yes.
in 2023. And you would like to swim. I mean, it's I
I
don't
was,
know
I
if
was,
you
I
know.
think I was 23. I think I was there. I was there.
Have
Yeah.
you done Florida?
Yes. Yeah. I did it in 23. Yes.
Okay. Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
I was gonna say you probably think the swim is cool because you swim around
You
the
go
pier
out of
and
the
you kind of
pier, around the pier. Yeah.
Aussie
Yeah.
exit. Yeah.
It was quite choppy, I think, from memory.
Um, I mean, I thought it was
Yeah. It
nice.
was
Like I like this,
right.
but again, I the swim is one of my stronger ones. So I
Good.
people say stuff. I'm like I was just looking at like fish.
Where to go? Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Florida is a good one, and we're focused on the 70.3 this year. So we've got
Oh,
three
nice.
70.3s. Will you do any of those, or are you mainly Ironman this year?
There's a 70.3 here in Swansea, which is a Pro Series
Mhm.
race. So I'll definitely do that because it's literally the bike course goes past the end of my road.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely do that. What 70.3s are you thinking of doing?
We have Chattanooga.
Amazing, yeah.
And we've done that several times, and then we're gonna do a new one we have not done for us, 70.3 Wisconsin,
Yeah,
later. And so we stack it. We kind of have a first part of the season, and then we have a little break in the middle where we
back end of the
do
year. Yeah.
Baca training, and then we'll have Wisconsin, and then the next month will be North Carolina,
Oh, amazing. Okay.
which is that is our absolute favorite race. It's like perfect.
Really?
What have you raced in the U.S. besides Florida, or
So I've raced in Florida. I've raced in Arizona.
okay?
Um,
That was our second Ironman. Was Arizona?
yeah. Where else have I been? I raced in. Oh, I did Lake Placid last year. That was beautiful.
Okay, I've
Yeah.
not done Lake Placid, but actually, the lady who was on the call right before this is in our group, our coaching
Yeah.
group, like our my coaches group, and she is 76,
Oh
and
wow.
she's not doing Ironman anymore. She's doing White Lake half Ironman in a couple of
Yes. Yeah.
months, but she has done Lake Placid 6 times.
Oh my god.
I'm like,
I know. I really I love the history there. They've got a plaque by the swim saying Ironman swim start, and there's just it's
she's
yeah.
I'm like, that is a hard race. And she's like, it's absolutely beautiful though. I'm like, yeah, but geez,
Yeah.
that's a
Well, I'm just amazed because I obviously until 2017 I didn't really kind of even know what Ironman really was. And in the space of like less than 10 years, I'm now like
yep.
I'm a historian of the sport. I love all the history and yeah, all the even looking into like where races used to be held and what races I want to do in the future, that sort of thing.
Do you like to read like older triathlon type
Oh
stuff?
yeah, I'm just I'd say a binge news, and obviously I love all the up to date stuff, and
So
I'm a fan of the sport as much as I'm a racer.
yeah, that's awesome. So our newsletter, I'll send you a link when I send this one out. But
Yeah,
it is primarily focused on like more practical techniques for age groupers, and we do a lot of like mindset skills and stuff. But it's hosted on Substack, which
yeah.
also is where Mark Allen has his newsletter. Which you
Okay.
know who Mark Allen is.
Yeah, I know who
Yeah.
Mark is. Yeah.
So he is awesome, and he writes a lot about the history of like back then with him and Dave, like the Iron Wars and everything.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So if you don't, I'll send you a link. You have to subscribe to that one because it's really
Really
awesome.
good.
So,
Oh, okay, amazing.
but thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time out to chat with us,
No,
and
no problem at all.
best of luck. And we'll be cheering for you. Good luck. And let's see who someone else I know is doing. South Africa is there, like, that's the one where you go and like they tell you, okay, if we let you know there's this notice, that means there's like great whites and you guys should come in. That's that race, right?
Uh, yes, we swim out of shark season,
Okay.
but
That's
the locals who I spoke to when, because I did the race last year, and the local I spoke
okay.
to basically said that if you come a month earlier, you'll see sharks swimming around the pier. But because you come this month, it's not shark season now, so there's no sharks. I'm like, I
Great.
don't feel I don't feel great about that.
Okay. Well,
Oh,
I think I interviewed a pro once who did that race, and they were like, it was the only pro briefing that they told us, if you hear this siren, that
get
means there's
out.
been a shark sighting. You need to come in. And she was like, what am I doing? Like, why? Why am I here? So, hopefully that won't happen. But thank you so much, Andrew. I
Thank
appreciate
you
it,
very much
and
for having me.
we will root you on.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.